Welcome to my allotment. Today I'm going to be showing you some jobs you can be doing over the next few weeks, and in particular I'm going to be covering some parts of my allotment. So if you've not already subscribed to my channel, if you could please do so, because you'll get hints and tips all throughout the year from my home garden, my allotment and also my home kitchen. So today I've been clearing some areas and covering them ready for the spring. So the reason I do this is because if I do it now, for me it makes life a lot easier when I start planting stuff in the new year. So I've already cleared an area and covered it, and I'll show you exactly how that looks in a moment. But the area I'm going to be clearing quite soon will be this area here. This is the area that had all my squashes and pumpkins on it, and next year it'll have my brassicas in it. Now things like my brassicas, you know, I won't be planting them probably until about April or May, so it's really important that I get the ground covered so I don't get lots of weeds in the spring. So the kind of cover I use is this kind of membrane here. So this particular bit that I've got down is obviously for my squashes and courgettes, and it's got holes in it, so obviously I will be folding that up and putting that in my summer house ready to get out in the spring. So the bit I'll be putting down will be a bit that I use that hasn't got any holes in it. So the reason this is particularly good is that it's really durable, so I use all the same stuff year after year, so it's reusable. It also lets the water in as well, so that's one of the reasons why I don't use plastic and I don't use carpet. Carpet, to be honest, can get a bit manky, and plastic doesn't let the water in, so the main benefit is the water then goes down deep into the soil, which is really beneficial. So when I pull this up and I dig it up and I remove the weeds, one of the things I will be bearing in mind is I will be weeding right up to the edge of the path, because if I don't do that, my grass pathway will go into my garden, and that makes a lot of work for me in the spring. It's something that I've missed before and just covered it up and then realised what's quite not that rooted now, by the spring will be much more rooted. And there are times in the spring when you're digging when it can actually be quite dry, and it's really hard to get the weeds and the grass out, whereas if you do it now it's a lot easier. And I want to try and get this done before it gets really frosty if I can. If I missed the boat and I wasn't ahead of myself, do you know what, I would just cover it with the weeds on it. Better to cover it with the weeds on it than to leave it. So on occasions when I'm strapped for time and I haven't dug everything as quickly as I would like to, I have just laid the weed membrane down and then just dug a bit as I've had time. It's better to do that than not to do it at all. But ideally try and dig it before you put the weed membrane down, because that's the ideal situation. But there's a chance that I won't get it all done and I'll have to cover a bit and dig a bit in the spring. But because you put the weed membrane down, again, when you lift it, it will be much softer underneath and it will be easier to dig it. So if we move over to the bit that I've already done, so you can see how I lay mine down. If we move over here. Now this had my onions in it, and this will have potatoes in it this coming year, because I do a crop rotation, so that's the order. So this will be lifted about March time for me to put potatoes in. Well, what I've already done is I've already dug it and got the weeds out, and then I've laid it down. Now this piece of weed membrane is actually bigger than the piece you see, but I know that these will finish once the frost hits. So I folded this up and I will fold it out. So when you're doing this, it's worth considering how you're going to lay it down. So I know that I'll need a little bit more here, so I've got a little bit folded up under here, which I'll pull over once these are finished, and the same here. Once these leeks start to finish, I've got a bit here which I can fold out and it will cover more of the ground. Now this weed membrane is incredibly durable, and I use the same bit year after year. I will put a link in the description if you want to get some for yourself, because I do highly recommend it. It does make life a lot easier for me. I know some people do no dig, and I will be looking into how that works and visiting someone quite soon on how they make that work for them. So I might try a little bit of no dig at some point, but for years I've always done this and it's worked really well. When you lay this weed membrane down, you must hold it down with something. You can get pegs and clips. Personally, I do often just use bricks and bits of wood, but whatever you use, you must weight it down really well, because the last thing you want is for it to take off and for you to lose a bit, because that would be a waste and it wouldn't be doing the job that you hoped it would do. So I really hope that this is going to help you prepare for the season next year. For me, It saves me so much time and energy, and I can't recommend it enough. If you've got any questions, then please, as always, put them in the comments. I will do our best to answer them. Now, I hope that's helped everybody.